Captain Mohan Ranganathan now joins me. He's also someone who's an aviation safety expert and someone who's been speaking really in a manner that has provoked considerable controversy, Captain, if I may say so, because you have hinted, I'm using the word hinted, at suicide, and that this was possibly, that the fuel switch could not have been cut off unless it was manually done by one of the pilots. And this has caused a lot of consternation. You just heard pilot association heads saying, please don't speculate, this is very unfair. How would you respond?
First of all, I'm not speculating about the switch. The switch, the report says, was selected. They say transition, but we can split hairs on that word, but it has to be moved. If you look at the, one thing that I agree with what Sam Thomas was saying, that what we need is the actual voice recorder transcript, not a paraphrased one-liner which says, you know, did you do it? Why did you do it? And the response. They are trying to mix up the issues. But, you know, if you go through the report, one thing was very clear, that the captain was the pilot monitoring and the co-pilot was the pilot flying. So in the Air India procedures, the pilot flying has his hands on the control column and the captain has his hands on the thrust levers until the takeoff decision speed, which is V1. And there is a call for 80 knots for a speed cross-check between the two PFTs, and the response will be checked. And the next will be an auto call-out, which will be V1. And then you have rotate and a positive rate, which will be given by the pilot monitoring. And the pilot flying will say gear up, and the pilot monitoring is supposed to take the gear up. Now that is the crucial point. If they had given the CVR transcript, which is every second, if that positive rate call was not there by the captain, the co-pilot is not going to ask for the gear up. We've all seen that the entire segment, the gear was hanging down. And if you look at the report, it says the liftoff was at 39 seconds. And it transitioned, where the switches come back, and the rat also came 3 seconds later. So the engine fuel switches are moved one by one to cut off. And they are moved back to run 4 or 5 seconds later. But that is very crucial because first, was there a positive rate of climb call? If it was not there, the co-pilot is not going to ask for the gear up. So why was there no call? That would have indicated who missed out a call. The second point is, the captain's hand is on the thrust levers until V1, and it moves down. So only his hands are free enough. You know, all the speculation about software error, and you are talking of electrical faults which can move. The switch cannot move. It has to be physically moved. That is why I said it is a human intervention. Without the human intervention, that switch cannot move from.
No, so you maintain, even though Captain Ranganathan, there have been reports, including in the United States, where questions have been raised about Boeing's fuel switch getting disengaged. This was a 2018 report which casts questions over the fuel switch of the Boeings. You're saying it cannot be disengaged unless there is human intervention. Am I correct?
It doesn't slide back, Rajdeep. It has to be moved.
Can it be malfunctioning? Could it have been malfunctioning?
If it is malfunctioning, how did it move? The physical movement of the switch cannot be there unless it is moved physically. So that is what you're there. Now, if you look at the report, the first line in the next paragraph, you know, they talk of the 218 circular, And the
Yes.
report says Air India did not do the maintenance, and they didn't consider it something which affected even FAA says that. And then the first line, it says it was not an issue for the accident. But the most important thing to notice here is when the fuel switches were moved back and then restarted, the 787 manual clearly says for a dual engine failure, the first action is both fuel switches to cut off. 1 second later, both switches back to run. And the next action is ram air turbine, press and hold for 1 second. It activates a ram air turbine. And the last line says speed 270 knots. They were at 180 knots at that point. So they did not have the third part. So, to say that they tried relighting, it is not possible. Then in an earlier segment, I was on another interview where one of the captains, he said that the squat switch, the gear was down because the squat switch was in the ground mode, and that prevents the gear from going up. But if you look at the report, it says that it moved to air mode at 49, the 39, 42 seconds of, I have to look at the figures exactly. It clearly says it was in air mode. So the question of the gear lever not being able to position the gear is out. So that fuel switch has definitely been physically moved, but it's only the CVR which, when there is
So you're saying, sir, I'm running out of time. You're saying that you
Yeah.
need that complete recording of the CVR. Are we clear on that? That no one should
100%.
speculate till that CVR entire recording, what happened before and after?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is very, very essential.
Okay, let me leave it there. Captain, I appreciate you joining us because I think that's an important point to clarify that until we have that full report, it would be unfair to speculate.